divided on different platforms. I am a health and life coach, and I am very excited about this conversation because Andrew is a trauma-informed life coach and energy healer. And I am so passionate about combining energy, body, mind, healing, because I feel that we're not just one or the other, we are whole. And I think Andrew has a very strong message around that to talk about for us. Hi, Andrew, how are you? We got there at the end. Thank you for the patience.
No problem. It's my first time doing a live, simultaneous, across a few channels, so we'll just go with it.
Yeah, exactly. So I've watched some of your videos, and they're very, very inspiring, and they're very, there's a lot of knowledge. I would definitely invite people to start following Andrew on Instagram and TikTok. I'll add the details below. But, you know, what got you to that place of feeling so connected to yourself and to your body and mind? You know, I don't know how old you are, but I don't know if you were taught that as a kid, like what was the journey that you had to go through?
No, I certainly wasn't taught it. I think the journey for me, I'm 46 now, got 3 kids, early teens. And the journey for me has come through a lot of pain. So if I go back 10 years to where I was at when I first had my children, I was very disconnected from my body.
Andrew, I'm just going to stop you there just a second. There is the other live is not, your sound is not coming through. So you're going to have to put the sound on the other one. Just want to make sure that people can hear us on both.
So, can you hear me on this one now? I think I can hear myself. That's the problem.
I can't. No, I can't hear.
So that's muted, right? That's unmuted.
Say something.
Okay, let's go for this one. What about now? That should work on here now.
It's not I'm not coming up on. I can't hear you. I can't see the sound. Yeah.
Let's go video settings, webcam, high definition.
Your internet is looking good here, but I really can't see your sound.
Okay, what about this?
Are they interacting with each other?
So it looks like TikTok's working, but it's just on
Are they?
Maybe my speaker's not working.
Yeah, no, it is working. It is working now. But of course, there's an interference.
So you can hear me on here?
Yeah.
Or is it TikTok you can hear me?
Yeah. Okay. So we're good. So let's go back straight into people being very patient with us. So.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, so 10 years ago, I am with my partner. We've got 3 kids, and I'm in a lot of pain. Yeah, I'm drinking a lot, so I've got all the addictions, drink, drugs. I'm either drinking and, sorry, this is too bad.
Yeah, this is going to be bad, isn't it?
I think we need to go for one or the other, to be
Okay, so should we turn off the TikTok then, because it's a little bit more. Okay. Sorry guys, you can watch us on Facebook or YouTube. We're live there. Okay, so Andrew, come back, and sorry about this guys, and we will be on trying something new. It didn't work, but that's fine. Once he comes back, we'll talk about how to release trauma is stored in the body. It's something that I have lived through myself. And I feel that when we focus on healing from just the mind, different thoughts, with affirmations, with things that are mind only, it doesn't work. And when we focus on things that are body only, it doesn't work. Sorry, I was just feeling the gaps here, Andrew, but I'll let you carry on with your thing. Yeah.
Thank you. We'll have to jump on TikTok after this or something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my journey has been one of, if I go back to like the changing point for me, it was 10 years ago when I had children, early mid-30s, and I was utterly depressed. And actually there was an experience I had that was the real catalyst for change for me. And that was going to see a doctor in the UK, right? So I'd been feeling, I guess what you could call depressed and disconnected and unhappy, knowing that there was something more for me, knowing that there was something better out there for me. After being addicted to alcohol and drugs for 10 years, I went to a doctor, and within kind of 15 minutes, I was walking out there with a prescription for some like antidepressant medication and the name of a local therapist. I just thought, my story is a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah.
You don't know why, you don't know how, you don't know anything. So you can't diagnose me with something and prescribe medication that's going to sort my life out. Yeah. After talking to me for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I remember, I've never really thought much of the system, the medical system, the education system. Mm-hmm. But after that experience, I spent a few hours walking around Cambridge, where we lived at the time. And actually looking back, that was the start of me going, okay, I'm not happy with my life, okay? I'm going to do something about it. I've got kids. I can't go on like this. And these people are not going to help me. Okay, the doctor's not going to help me. The therapist she's prescribed is not going to help me. I need to do this myself. Mm-hmm. And that, if I kind of work from there, we can go back to causes if you want later, but from there, I've experimented. Like we took the kids out of school, we traveled the world, we lived in India for 6 months, we lived in Bali for 6 months, we traveled around Myanmar and Laos and Vietnam. And on that journey, learned about trauma, learned about how other civilizations and other cultures look at mental health and trauma and the body, and look at us humans as holistic beings. Yeah. And I got support from so many different people, whether it's a sound healer in Bali or a yogi or a priest or an energy healer or whatever it was. I went through my process of healing my body, mm-hmm. healing my trauma, healing my inner child. Mm. And after going through that process, just like many of my clients do now, it's very hard not to turn around and want to help other people through that journey.
Yeah.
Because it's so life-changing.
Yeah, yeah. You've said so many things there, and people that are listening to this, they'll be thinking, well, it was easy for you because you could just go traveling, right? Because you just left everything, and you perhaps had the means to do that, but I don't. I have to go back home, and I have to go to work every day, and I've got kids, and I've got to support my family. What would you say to people like that? Of course, the same person, they got the same prescription, the same, this is it. This is how I can help you.
I think the world's changed in 10 years since I did that, right? I did that. I mean, there wasn't really, I don't even know if there was social media. I can't remember. There was Facebook maybe, but there's two parts to it. Number one, the world has changed. So you've got access to information now, and you've got access to people outside of the system.
Yeah.
But number two, like trauma, the understanding of trauma and wellness has moved a long way in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So there's been books. I don't know when the Body Holds the Score by 𝗬𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 was published.
That was quite a long time ago. It's an amazing book. Yeah.
Amazing book, but the people's understanding of wellness and yoga and body and energy has come a long way. So whereas it took me getting on a plane and traveling, thousands of miles to learn about energy healing.
Yeah.
Now, if you live in the US, Australia, the UK, France, Spain, wherever you are, you've even got this information.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're so right. I mean, there is enough free information about how to heal your body, how to heal your mind for free everywhere, right?
There is.
Everywhere, like you're saying, you go to on YouTube, on TikTok, on Facebook, everywhere. If you want to find a piece of information, that will be there. But what I have observed from my clients and my own journey is that there is a gap between getting this information and the actual putting this information into practice and integrating this information into people's day-to-day life.
Yeah.
How do you find that?
I think it's the biggest challenge with this work.
Yeah.
To do it on your own is very difficult.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why, and this may help people actually do it on their own, but you need a lot of safety in your process. Okay. So the process of releasing trauma from your body, okay, essentially you're going back to the epicenter of your trauma. And even though as an adult, your trauma might actually be quite innocent in a way. It might be, I was bullied at school, my dad was working loads, or my mum was anxious, or it might be an experience that wasn't actually or isn't that traumatic when you look back on it, when you have perspective from it.
Yeah.
But the whole point of healing is getting that perspective. So you need some duality in your process. You need there to be you safe in this moment, witnessing the trauma, witnessing the old emotion that's stuck in your body. So for that, you have to rewrite decades of internal process. Because the only reason it's still there, the only reason it's still trapped in your body is because you are avoiding it, or you are attaching to it when it comes up. So in order for you to avoid it, there are processes internally that store it away, that hide it, that put armor around it, that make it difficult for you to feel these feelings that were really uncomfortable at the time.
Yeah.
And the process of going to this spot, to the epicenter, requires you to go through all these coping mechanisms.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I so agree with you. And I just stop you quickly. There is that I think people got really good at protecting their trauma these days and wearing this facade. I mean, that was me. That almost like you've told yourself, no, it's not that of a big deal, you know, like, so you've kind of been telling yourself that story. And like I said, you know, I mean, and there has been, I think, I don't know if it's in that book, but I have read books that says, you know, some people don't even know that they have been abused until they go through an experience and they realize, oh, by the way, like, I'm realizing that something has happened, because we are so good at protecting ourselves from a particular event. And another thing that I want to highlight is that you talk about, you know, your trauma might be innocent. I mean, a lot of people think like, oh, but you know, my trauma wasn't that bad. But as you know, what is the definition of trauma?
You know, I think it's interesting. Like, obviously, you've got the big traumas. You've got the abuse, sexual abuse, violence, all this stuff. And to your point on that, we are incredible beings. Okay. So, you know, in order to function, in order to move through that situation that you can't control, you either dissociate and check out, or you just bury it and get on with it.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of my clients are high-functioning human beings that had significant trauma. And the only way you can get from the trauma to high-functioning is to just bury it deep and get on with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then on to the next point about innocent, or like, it's developmental trauma, basically. It's not having your needs met.
Yeah.
So we need love, affection, attention, encouragement. We need all these things as a child. And if you don't get them, it affects you. It creates trauma. It creates rejection, creates fragmentation of personality, which is all trauma.
Yeah.
But that's the hardest one for people to accept or even identify.
Yeah. And I think what you said, I mean, it could be like you mentioned, like, you know, as a small trauma, it could be that, you know, your mother was a little anxious, but if you haven't been able to cope with that, regardless of what it was, that affected you so much at such a deeper level that you kind of, before you know, you're just trying to kind of protect all of these feelings that you had at the time when you were a child and your mother couldn't be there for you in the way that you wanted her to be. Right. And then before you know, like I said, you're just burying all of that.
Yeah. You're burying it. I mean, let's take that example. So, anxious mother. You know, the society we live in is very separated, is very disconnected. Probably most mothers are anxious because it's a really hard time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're the baby, if you're the young child coming out into this world, your whole world is your mother.
Yeah.
So if she's anxious, the baby picks up on that energetically. And for the baby, the world is unsafe, right? The baby has no perspective of the world. Yeah. So the baby is growing up essentially in an unsafe environment, which affects her or their nervous system. It affects their safety. So they start to become on edge. They're not, their need of safety is not satisfied.
And interesting you say that, because they might have all their basic needs met, right? The mother can still breastfeed them and be there for them. But like I said, if the energy of the mother is an anxious energy, the child will pick up that energy.
Yeah.
And that will be
not only that, babies are so advanced that they will start to fragment their personality to try and create safety. So as the child develops, they will go, okay, what do I need to do to make my mother feel safe?
Yeah.
What circumstances, what of my behavior creates safety in my mother, which creates safety and love for me, because she's no longer anxious, she can focus on me. So even from an early age, you can get a child who should be thinking, what do I need? How can I express myself authentically? Who am I? Exploring themselves in the world. you can go from that to somebody who you might call like a people pleaser that needs to make their mother happy in order to get their basic needs met. And that's another form of trauma, that fragmentation of personality or person.
Yeah. And when you talk about energy, I am a like true believer in energy healing as such, that we can't just drink green juices, and think positive thoughts. There is an energy that comes with either we're holding on to this negative energy that was a trauma in our bodies, and there is of course there is positive energy as well that we can just have in us, that you can feel in a person. Sometimes when you go into a room and you meet a new person, you think like, oh my god, this person has got such a good energy. What do you observe in your clients as well around the actual energy body?
If you think about that person that's got the great energy, okay, that person is probably empty. That person is free of trauma. That person is just human in the moment, connected to everyone around them, putting out this energy of love. That's the human condition. That's the basis. That's the potential of all of us.
Yeah.
That's naturally how we vibrate as human beings.
Yeah.
The problem is that most people are carrying around the unexpressed emotion, okay, of the past. And essentially that's all trauma is.
Yeah.
So you're that child, your mum's too anxious, she can't give you what you need. You have then a moment, a realization of rejection, of I'm not good enough to get attention from my mother. That's the trauma. That's the energetic, emotional experience that we can't process and doesn't flow through us and gets stored in the body.
Yeah.
So it's a physical storing of unexpressed emotion that is trauma. You can't have trauma from an experience that flows through you and goes. So we are energetic beings. We have an energy body.
Yeah.
And the people that feel like, wow, you've got amazing energy, are people that don't have this unexpressed emotion stored in their body.
Yeah. So I'm interested to know, how do you help people to release that energy? In my experience, I realized very early on that after my cancer diagnosis, that the food was an important part of it, because the disease was already in my body and it was advanced stage 3, and I needed to do something to help my body to heal. But I realized very quickly that that wasn't going to make the deal. I needed to release some of the emotions that I had been holding on to, forgiveness, anger, for me it was I had some experiences of feeling that in my body as well, and being able to release that. How do you help people through that process? I mean, I can imagine that people, when they come to you, they're already feeling in their bodies that, some sort of pain or discomfort or perhaps even sickness.
Yeah, there's the physical side effects which manifest from the energy, but there's also the psychological stuff, which is why most people come to me. Like, my relationship's not good, I can't connect to my emotions, I've got addiction problems, or I just want to feel that joy, and I want to be that guy, I want to be that girl that's got that energy.
Yeah.
So the emotion that is repressed in your body doesn't want to be there. It's emotion, it's energy, it will rise up, you will feel it, okay? The only reason it's still in anyone's body is because we are hiding it, we are going away from it, we have it stored in a box, we have a mental tape playing that's bad and we don't want to feel it, okay? Or it gets triggered in us. So that's what a trigger is, right? A trigger is, or an overreaction is a release of a repressed emotion, okay? So it's going out and we attach to it. We believe that we are really angry about that person in the car in front of us, or we believe that our child not doing their shoelaces up is really making us angry. But it's not. It's an attachment of a repressed emotion. So the emotion, the experience, is either being repressed or attached to at all times.
Because we actually can't, we don't want to feel fully, right? We don't want to feel fully because we're too scared to feel the emotion fully as well. And when it comes, we're like, I need to run away from this because it's just too painful.
Well, yeah, and because at the time that we experienced it, it was negative. It was something we couldn't process. So it gets stuck, and then we don't want to feel that. So we think probably to keep ourselves safe at the time, let's store it somewhere, let's hide it. And that program's just running in the background.
Yeah, over and
even
over.
50 years later, that program, if you don't explore it, is still running to keep you safe, but all it's doing is keeping your trauma locked in.
Yeah. And slowly it's making you physically sick, right? Because that's the energy is from your physical body is being drained every single day.
Yeah, it's hard, so hard. And your body, your nervous system knows that there is foreign bodies in there, knows that there's repressed emotion, so it's dysregulated. It's saying to you, we've got problems down here, we've got fires to put out, come down here.
Yeah.
And our brain's going, no, I don't think so. I'm going to worry about the future. I'm going to worry about the past. I'm going to have a drink. I'm going to get on social media. I'm going to buy some clothes, whatever, anything to look down. But back to your original question, and to simplify it, I take people on a process, on a journey to the parts that they unconsciously don't want to go to. Then hold them through a process of experiencing and witnessing the emotion without attaching to it. So we open the box, we let the emotion up, we don't attach to it, and it goes. And the problem with doing it on your own is that you will come up with 10 excuses not to do it right here, not to open the box. You've got a tax return that needs to do. It's too cold in here. Put a jumper on. Do it later. There's a million things that people bring up in their sessions with me, and I'm like, let's come back. Okay. We're going to do this.
And then when they probably, as a high achiever, the best excuse will be, what's the point in doing that anyway? You know, I had, you know, like, you know, it's just not going to do anything.
There's a million excuses at that point. But if you can go there knowing you're safe, so I'm safe, I'm okay, I'm in the process, I'm in the moment, there's nothing to be scared of, I'm going to go and feel. And as soon as you breathe into it, the emotion will start to come up. And then people try and attach to it. So they're like, oh, I'm angry, this process isn't working. Like, they get angry at me, or they'll start to cry or whatever. Be like, it's not yours, it's not your emotion. And they're like, oh yeah, it's not mine, I'm okay. I can just witness the anger without being angry.
Yeah.
5 minutes of witnessing an emotion without attaching it to it, and you can release it after decades of holding on to it.
So,
does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense completely. And I don't know if you've read the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza. So my issue was definitely anger, and you know, that's why I had you know, the cancer in my bowel, you know, the inability to let go. But the program that was running behind the scenes, it was, you know, just get angry, you know, whatever happens, just get angry. And of course, if you've been running this program on an automatic pilot for 10 years, 15 years, 16 years, you know, and it goes straight away, you were addicted to that program, to those chemicals that are released in your body, and you become addicted to the anger. And for me, it was also the stress, right? And you know, how do you help people through the process of, okay, I've released that for 5 minutes, but when I go back to my life and my spouse doesn't do what I want them to do, then I'm going to get angry again?
So there's two things. And I think this is like, it's a step in the right direction, but feeling and expressing the emotions does not release them. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I did kickboxing for 10 years in my 20s. And I'm pretty sure every time I hit the pad or kick the bag, right, I was connected to the anger that was inside me.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? It doesn't go. So even like going out into the woods and screaming or screaming into a pillow, you think, oh, I'm releasing the anger, but you're not. You're attaching to it.
Yeah.
So the anger of your past is coming up and you're acting on it. And essentially, as soon as you attach to it and act on it, it goes down. Okay? Goes in a cycle.
Yeah.
Once you have released the origin, it's not a bottomless well of anger. It is a stored emotion. It is a finite amount of anger you have in your body. Once you've released that anger, it doesn't have the ability to be triggered anymore. There's nothing to trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So once you've done the release properly, it has, and there can be levels to it. Yeah. I'm not saying 5 minutes release is everything.
Yeah.
It's all about control. So in the moment when your husband annoys you, you get hijacked by this big bag of anger. Okay? You release it and that bag gets less powerful.
Yes.
Yeah, you release it again, and then after a while, after a process, after a few weeks of releasing the anger, there's suddenly nothing really there, no power behind the anger. And as you release the anger, you get more present. Your inner parent, your person in the moment gets more powerful. So you can see, oh, you've done that.
Yeah, you can witness how the anger came up, and it's fine. Yeah, it's, yeah, he's not doing exactly what I want. Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with that. And I think this is why it goes back to what you mentioned at the beginning. Doing on your own, it is challenging because you don't have a perspective, right? You have been running this program over and over again. You can't see it from a different point of view. So working with somebody will give you the ability to, and the safe space, depending how much you are feeling this in your body, and how much have you practiced this, the emotion that it's being negative, in your own body and mind, that for you, like having a safe space, because some people are so scared to even go there, right? Like they don't even want to talk about it. I think that is when it's really important to work with somebody.
Yeah, and I think probably the people that need more support than anybody else are the people where their trauma has created an external reality that is unsafe.
Yeah.
And when that happens, it's really difficult to break the cycle, because say the fear comes up of your inner child, of the 5-year-old version of you, of your trauma. Mm-hmm. And you can attach to it because you're like, well, I'm scared of my partner. Mm-hmm. I'm scared of not having any money. I'm scared of, not having a house. And so when your external reality is unsafe, it's very easy to attach to the traumatic emotions of the past. And that's really when you need somebody holding you in the middle, saying, this is this is your container. Yeah. This is your safety.
In saying that, for me, my external reality became very unsafe because I was told I had only 70% chance of survival. So out of desperation, I thought, I can't keep holding on to this. So I think that also I don't know if you've noticed this in your clients, that I believe people need to reach a point where they have had enough of their pain and their suffering, where they are ready to walk through it.
Yeah.
Do you find
That
that?
catalyst is often children.
Yeah.
So not necessarily your pain, but you seeing your trauma being reenacted onto your children.
Yes. Yeah.
Or like you said, health is another one. I mean, I'll be honest with you, we briefly touched on this earlier, but men often need, which is quite pathetic, but it's the reality, they often need their wives or their partners or the woman in their life to threaten them or give them an ultimatum for them to do this work.
That's
Yeah,
sad.
I don't know what it is about men. I think it's a cultural thing. I think it's hesitancy to admit weakness or ask for help.
I see this a lot. We were talking earlier, off camera. The culture difference here in Australia in comparison to, in the UK when I lived there. I feel that there is more of this culture of, men needs to be strong all the time. I also lived in New Zealand, and there was also that, men can't show any emotions, can't be weak, can't be, and there is, suicide rate, like that is really high, domestic violence. There's so many issues that I did not expect to see. And I feel like you were so right that there is still that stigma, even though we feel that we have moved away from that, but have we?
In my experience in this line of work, I mean, if you look at your following, if you look at my following, if you look at the people just on a very basic level that follow and interact with this type of content,
yeah,
it's probably 90% women.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas if you follow the people that are talking about exercising your way out of depression or getting a six-pack or earning your way out of depression, then there'll be a lot of men following that.
Yeah.
And I think all of those things have a role in a man's life. I am not against any of that thing. I think we should be the best versions of ourselves. I think we should be abundant. I think we should be fit and strong and have all of those things. But frankly, it's putting a Band-Aid over the problem.
Yeah.
And again, that's why it's not serving men. That's why there's still the suicide. That's why there's still the depression. That's why there's still the addiction, because that ain't the solution.
Yeah. And what you said earlier, about the children, I mean, at the beginning of my own journey, that was the motivator for me. I mean, I am not going to sit here to say I did it for myself, because at that time I had such low self-love, self-esteem, self-worth, and all of the selves together, that I had to pull myself together because I wanted to survive for my kids.
Yeah.
And I suddenly realized that some of my behaviors were being mimicked by them, and I needed to break that generational pattern that I was seeing in them. I think that is such an important part, of we are at a time that we think that we have evolved so much as a society, like you're saying, like there is still some core things that are still there. And unless we start modeling different behaviors to our children, it's going to be very difficult to see a different generation behaving in a different way, right?
Yeah, for sure. And this is something I can give people to take away, actually, is that the energy is important. Getting rid of your baggage is essential, okay? But there contains within the process this part of you, okay? If you've stored energy or emotion in your body, that part of you is still alive, okay? There's a part of you that is fragmented at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the wounded child, let's call it, right? And the wounded child is still running your life to some extent as an adult. And the self-talk that you said you had really low self-esteem. The only reason you have low self-esteem is because you felt unlovable at some part in your life. And that part of you is still alive as an adult. And your self-talk, because you grow up as that person, you go from the child to the adult, your self-talk then mimics your experience of you're not good enough.
Yes.
So essentially, you've got a feedback loop to your fragmented inner child that you're not good enough. You're not good enough, because that's what you experienced. And that's a massive part about what I help people do, but you can probably do yourself, is be aware of your self-talk and change your self-talk. And it's not about looking in the mirror and saying, I love you, you're a great guy, you're freaking awesome, right? It's about talking to that part of you, that fragmented inner child that felt unloved. His dad left him, which was me, right? It's about talking to that part of you and saying, you're lovable. I see you. How do you feel? You're a good kid. Yeah? You're worthy of love. I'm here for you. It's about changing that inner dialogue. And that's something that is hard, but can be done by everybody.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And that takes practice. It's a daily practice. Like I said, it's not, once you've done all the work, you open the box and you release the emotions, and every time that you observe yourself, re-experience that emotion, it gets less and less. But also there is the habit of having the self-talk that you need to keep on top of, right? Like to just remind yourself, I'm no longer that person that tells myself unconsciously every day that I'm not lovable, that I'm not worthy, that, all of that. So there is different facets into the whole healing work, right?
I think there's different facets. If I was to simplify it, I think it comes down to releasing unexpressed emotion. Because that allows you, when you release the unexpressed emotion, you automatically reconnect to your body. So that gives you presence, safety, embodiment.
Yeah.
And then the second bit is integration and healing of the fragmented inner child.
Yeah.
Which then gives you self-love and purpose and authenticity and also presence, because you interact with the world from a present, singular point of view rather than all these like fragmented parts of you. So those two parts of the process, I think, are the quickest. They're not easy, but the simplest way to heal and come back to the moment.
So how can people reach out to you?
You can go to my website, have a look around, andrewlin.net. I've got lots of testimonials on there. Have a look. You can reach out. You can book a free call if you wanna talk.
Awesome. I'll add the details so they can follow you as well on Instagram and on TikTok and your website as well. But I think the work that you're doing it's important because you are a living proof of it. You have walked through it. As again, we were talking, before we became live, when you want to change your life and turn your life around, it's important to have people that have gone through it, and there are some steps ahead of you to guide you through it. If you want to go quicker and faster and in a safer place as well. And I think that's I really value you for just doing this work, which is not easy. Very, very proud of what you have achieved as well. Like that's really incredible.
Thank you very much. Likewise to you. And I really appreciate that. Appreciate your time.
Awesome.
And speak to you again.
Yeah. Take care.